Hello. Well, you've gotten your pattern all adjusted. You've prepared it as far as knowing what are your cut lines. You have maybe done some extra notation on your pattern, knowing that you're going to maybe copy a piece off and make two pockets, etc. Whatever you've done in your pattern preparation, now it's time to actually cut it out. So the first thing I'm going to do is tell you that I had intended to have you cut it out how I usually cut all knits. And that is just one layer at a time. You can see how the knits move, and it's just so much better to do one layer at a time. However, I always taught that way when we were in the classroom and we had big table spaces. And I have a big table space that I could turn this the other way and I could open it clear up and show you. However, I don't have a high enough camera yet. You're looking at about as high as I can get right now without having some installation done in my studio area out here. So we're going to do this as the pattern suggests, folded. So we're going to find our layout again. I've got from when we found the pieces and I marked them. And remember I told you there was two pieces of paper in here. And it's identified where you're at by up in the corner. Like this one says page 1 of 4. So what they mean is page 1, page 2, and then the other sheet is 3 and 4. So we're going to look at our layouts. But before we do that, let's look at what is determined in this pattern as, quote, their rules. They give you another reinforcement about what these symbols mean on their pattern. And then it gives you a little shorten and adjustment, lengthen, shorten demo, which is very helpful. And then it talks about how to pre-shrink your fabric if it wasn't pre-shrunk, etc., and how to deal with that. It also talks about the nap again, meaning the one-way designs or surface like pile or velvet, etc. Talks about double thickness with fold. And again, it says right sides together, which is what we're going to do. And it gives you a little notation about they may ask you to put two together, but there's no fold. And that means that they have cut something, a piece, and laying it on top of the other one without an actual fold in it. And then it goes on to talk a little bit more about what they suggest for cutting, how to do that. And then it starts our cutting layouts. It begins with view A, goes to top B, goes to top C, still C. So let's flip it over to 2. D, the jacket. Now, it tells you again what pieces you need for this, because it isn't all of them, because down here, they're assuming you are doing a contrast. If you're not doing a contrast, then all of these pieces move up to the main fabric. You'll need to be aware how they laid it out. But we're going to look first at our main body pieces. Okay. Now, it gives you 60-inch goods with nap or without nap in a small. So the small petite, that's the one they want you to do if you're a small petite. I happen to be cutting the 1XL, like I showed you in the adjustments. So this would be my layout. And then, of course, I am going to cut the same. It's all the same on mine at the moment. So I will then come back and do this one too. All right. So we know where we're headed for our layouts. All right, I'm going to fold that. We'll deal with this top one first, the big body parts of the pattern. And I want to just talk about laying out when you lay out a knit. First of all, I am getting my selvages as even as they can be. You don't want to stretch it, because if you do, it distorts it, right? So you want it to gently lay down and gently get it into place so you don't have buckles anywhere. You can see that the jersey is rolling to the inside. Got right sides together. And it's definitely rolling on that cut line. So we'll open it up as much as we can. It's not going to be even. It just won't be on a knit. Your goal is to make the selvages even and then let it come back down to a natural position here on the fold. And it is wise to do this and let this set for a little while. And if you have pulled it any, you let it just kind of contrast back together. These are not wrinkles that are going to, they're not wrinkled up fabric. It is flat. Those happen to be rayon marks from it being next to something warm. I think the other day when I was trying to tube it and it was next to my warm iron. So, you know, those will press away. They're not the kind that are going to stay there forever. But I just want to make sure I point them out, that because up on the camera, it kind of looks like those are wrinkles. They're just marks. You see what I'm doing this? There's not really anything that is wrinkly. But also, when you do this, right, to try to smooth it out, do you see how it kind of keeps growing, right? So that's why you want to lay it, let it rest. Okay. I actually laid this out quite a few hours ago and have let it set just like it is here. I know I just kind of messed with it a little bit ago, but I'm still feeling comfortable that it has had enough time to relax from any of the pulling that I did. The rest of my yardage is folded down on the other end down here, just laying, waiting to be used. It hasn't been cut off. I haven't cut it in pieces. I know some of you got it cut in pieces. You're going to be fine. You'll be able to work it. I'm pretty sure that the pieces will be large enough for you to work with. Because even if you had extended it to being 30 inches like me, you know, that's not even a yard yet in length. So I'm sure that you'll be able to work it out. It just might be a little bit different of a puzzle, and you probably cannot follow this guideline. All right, so the first piece that they have laid in my configuration here was number 12, the sleeve. So let's lay down number 12, the sleeve. And I do want to go back to what I had said, that the it's never going to be even or straight. And that's because, just think in your mind, when you're knitting or crocheting something, it's always growing, right? It starts and then you knit some more and knit some more, and then you come back on it and fill that in and whatever, it swoops back and forth. So it's never really straight. It's not like weaving where you actually pull it in your little shuttle and then it squishes it down and you do the next row. But in knitting, when you're growing something, because it's just the one thread, it naturally will go at a slant, and then it just keeps doing that, which is again one of the reasons why when you hand sew or hand knit something, that you block it, right? You set it in, maybe you dampen it, maybe you steam it, and you get it into the shape that you want it to be, and then you let it cool in that blocked position. Well, our fabrics have been finished so that they shouldn't be growing drastically on you at the moment. They will shift, but it's mainly because the knit has movement. It's not that the fabric is continuing to grow. However, with that being said, it does use it still does follow the grain that's a little bit at a slant. That's why your ends will probably never be completely even. And you just need to watch that you're doing your best over here at matching your selvages and getting the fold to lay natural, that you don't have any buckling over here on the fold. All right, so back to placing this. We're still going to use our arrows. We're still going to measure that it's in line with that selvage, because if we did something that was off just because we thought, oh, that's a nice placement, now our knit still will twist and turn because you aren't following its natural grain line at all. Okay, so they say to place this kind of right in the middle like this. Well, and then they say that over here we're going to have the facing and then maybe room for the pocket right in here. But I see a lot of wasted fabric here. So I'm cutting on this line here on the extra large, 1X, and not the 2 or the 3X. And so I could move this clear over here. Now I don't want the selvage in my project. I don't want to do that because in this case, it definitely keeps it from moving. And we want every chance to have a good movement within the garment, good drapeability within the garment. So I'm going to take that point right there and I'm going to put it right at the tip of where my selvage kind of starts, the finished edge. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to see, I don't want it right on that edge because that's curling. I'm going to, that's too difficult. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to splay out the edge and get it to where it's inside of anything that wants to roll. Okay. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I am going to show you via using weights on actually a pattern piece rather than going right straight to pins. And before I configure this to make sure that it is on grain, I'm going to play with this space over here because I think I can get my pocket in there. Here's my pocket piece. Here's my arrow on the pocket piece, so it has to line up with over there. And if I take him, this is the cut line over here. He's not on the fold, but I can put him right up next to the fold. And if you can see, I'm not sure, and the camera I'm using right now, I cannot zoom in on. I'm really sorry about that. However, this is the end, and yes, it is a little squared off end because when it folds back, that little square off finishes right there in that corner. So you can play with your pocket pattern. It isn't that this tip is missing. This one has a point. This one has a dull, like little flat edge to it out there. But if I lay it right here like this, look, my cutting lines are here, and this one, that cutting line for that one is over there. So I could make good use and get my 2 pockets cut out of right over here instead of placing it right in the center. Right? You can play, and some of you did with your pants pattern layout, right? You had a guide to kind of see, but then you started realizing what the rules are, and the rules mainly are that you're getting it on the right grain and on grain, and then you can play for the best use of your yardage rather than wasting yardage. Okay, and I think right in there, my facing, which is number 17, which it kind of looks like they placed it on the fold, which they might have had it just kind of like this, right next to the fold, but it isn't put on the fold. And my facing piece, right, is right here. And now I'm going to keep it the same direction as everything else, even though my fabric does not have an obvious one-way print or a nap to it. But I'm going to still put, if I have the top of something going this way, I'm going to continue to do that. This is the top of the pocket, by the way. The point is the top. And if you look at the layout, they did that. So it's already, just in case you have something that is one directional, they're helping you out. But I also feel that if I'm going to be sewing, every time I sew, all the fabrics are laying in the same direction to one another. And so it should make them join easier. Okay, so yeah, that will fit well in here. So I could do that here. I'm just going to put a weight down at the moment. I'm going, oops, needs to come up just a little bit for that pocket right there. There. That's potentially great. Put that there. And then right in here, they had said a pocket, right? Well, I'm probably going to cut my bands out of the same fabric. So this little space right in here would be great for my cuff, I know. It won't be my hemband. That is too small of a piece for that. But my cuff may set in here. Right? So now I have to make a decision. So yeah, it'd be lovely if it could set this way, but it has to stretch. It says stretch on here, meaning that's not the direction of your stretch fabric. It's the direction you have to stretch it when you sew it at the bottom of the sleeve. So it needs to be in the direction that has the most give or stretch. Well, some of you might have fabric that does want to stretch both ways. But in this case, we are going to use it the way they want us to. And that is, see my grain arrow? They want it like this. And that's true because then these edges here are on the quote cross or the courses. And so it will have the most stretch if I put it this way. Okay. Now I'll look at that and I go, well, that isn't as wonderful as I thought it would be. Because now I have a weird space over there. And what I could do is get my hood. So I'm going to go and get my hood piece and I'll be right back. Hood. And my hood has to have a grain line as well. And it's here, the arrow. So now if I try to set it over there, and there is the extra large line, it just, let's see. No, it doesn't really fit in there that way. What if I turn it this way to have, no, it doesn't fit very well there. So I am not going to try to put this piece here. What I'm going to do is pin down and move on from where I've got right here right now. I may think about actually, oh, there's one other option here. I may think about moving this here and not doing my facing quite there yet. But let me see. I'm going to go ahead and pin down. I know I have enough fabric. I had checked that when I was folding it all up. I have enough to do it the way they say to do it. I'm just trying to use the best possible layout. So let's talk about pinning it now and finding it on grain. So let's take our ruler and see the center of this arrow. It's at 9 and Not, it's a 1/16 of an inch away from 9.5. So if we feel comfortable yet with that, I am going to put one pin in there. And now I may not go clear to the bottom with the knit because I don't want to distort this. If I just have my pattern sitting and pinned to the top of the knit at the moment, I'm going to be fine. When I get out over in here, maybe I will want to go clear down, or when I'm out in the edges. So let's see. Right now, that is the same, 1/16 of an inch away from being a full 9.5. And then let's go up here. Now, when you give me your, see, now it went on the other side of 9.5. So let's take and loosen this. And let's just walk just ever so gently, making sure I'm still okay over there. Put something down so it doesn't want to move on me. Now let's measure it. When you get ready to give me pictures, I would like to have a picture if you have 2 rulers, or if you actually, just a little bit more, if you actually can take 2 pictures so that I see that you're measuring it at various lengths of the arrow, not just one place, because it does matter, as you can see on what I'm working with right now. There we go. We're going to get that settled right there. Okay. And now I am going to talk about from there out. Let's say that I am going to use pins. So now I want to pin. And again, it is the same as when we were doing before, but you do have to be very careful to not cause bubbling, which is why even if I'm going to pin, I like to have these weights, because it keeps me from pulling up and distorting when I'm pinning. If I have it well weighted down, and I've smoothed it out, weighted it all down. I also want it as close as I can have it and still make my scissors work when I'm cutting, because you don't want these edges to be rolling as you're cutting. So you want to actually have a nice, good surface there. Not all rolled up. So depending on what it is. Now, some people may ask me, I want to pin these 2 pieces together, right? People will do that. But I want you to see that the moment that you do it, you actually distort. And then when I let go, it's going to have buckling, or kind of like a bubbly. The knit will be kind of super extended or stretched in little weird things. So I don't suggest pinning anything. Don't pin your selve edges. Don't pin your other edge. You just need to let it rest in the position where you want to cut it. And then use weights help. And if you need to use the scissors, then I would use some pins. Now, I am using my ballpoint pins. Again, it is not necessary. Half the time I don't. But since this one was really wanting to roll, I decided, I'm going to use my ballpoint pins today. So that's what I have in my pin jar right now. So I would continue around this, and I would continue to lay this out and get actual straight of grain. So I will be back in a little bit.